Now, this is as far as India is concerned, but US President Donald Trump also says that he is now strongly considering large-scale sanctions and tariffs on Russia as well, unless a ceasefire is reached. His warning comes amid intensified Kremlin attacks. Meanwhile, his administration's decision to halt military aid and intel sharing with Kyiv to Ukraine has also drawn a lot of criticism, with many calling this as a move that favors Moscow. Let's go back to Rishabh on this, because Rishabh, US has been building pressure. We have seen exactly what has been the deal that happened with Ukraine. Now, as far as Moscow is also concerned, here is President Trump announcing that there would be severe sanctions or tariffs that could also be imposed on Russia.
Well, definitely, Donald Trump, who has been seen a bit inclined toward Moscow in this whole Russia-Ukraine conflict in last one and a half week, has finally talked about sanctions on Russia now. Remember, after what happened in the Oval Office of Washington, where we saw heated exchange between the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and US President and Vice President Donald Trump and JD Vance, there was Europe galvanizing around Ukraine, and we saw European Union Council meeting, we saw the leaders meeting in London, where the alliance of willing was announced, be it Canada, be it Australia, all these countries started coming together to support Ukraine. And after that, we heard US saying that they are even not only stopping the military aid, but they are also stopping the intelligence sharing with Ukraine. To which France, stepped forward saying that they will share the intelligence with Ukraine. Now, finally, we hear that Donald Trump is talking about sanctions on Russia, which means that Donald Trump realizes that losing European allies or facing, vast of his own domestic electorate, in the issue of Ukraine is something that is not beneficial for him.
Sodhi is connected with us. Good morning to you. What do you make of Donald Trump now? Because he seems to be putting pressure on both sides, whether be it on Ukraine and now on Moscow as well.
Jayant, Amita, it's my honor to be on your esteemed panel. Well, traditionally, Russians have been regarded as the sworn enemies of the Americans, and in the last few weeks, after being inaugurated for the second time as the American president, the way Donald Trump has been gravitating towards Russia, clearly it was sending a lot of, pangs of displeasure among the American electorate, because they felt that America was being sold out to Russians for monetary gains. So by announcing tariffs and putting a lot of pressure on the Russians, Donald Trump has put to rest this speculation, and he has made it clear to both the sides that he is exerting equal pressure both on Ukraine as well as on Russia to end this prolonged Russia-Ukraine war, which has cost 3 years last month. Another thing, what has prompted Donald Trump to issue this statement is because within the NATO and the European Union, America's fastest allies were slowly deserting America because they felt that Donald Trump was moving too fast to Russia, and he was neglecting the concerns of the Western European countries. I think it is a very fine statement by Donald Trump, in which he has shown that he is equally putting pressure on Ukraine as well as Russia, so that this war comes to an end, which has affected every global citizen.
Well, absolutely, sir, because he has been saying and sending out a message to both Russia and to Ukraine that get to the table right now before it is too late. Thank you very much, Colonel Sodhi, for joining us here on the broadcast. Now, speaking more on Russia, which is now reportedly open to a temporary truce with Ukraine, but only if the progress is made towards having a final peace deal. As there are certain reports suggesting that Moscow conveyed this position during the US-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia last month, and this comes after US President Donald Trump has called for a ceasefire. Now, this is the development that has now been taking place as far as when it comes to the final settlement, and a ceasefire is something that the US President has also been talking about, a final settlement agreement on peace deal. Well, let's get back to Rishabh on this, because Rishabh, the negotiations that has been taking place, and here is Donald Trump himself is saying that get to the table both to Russia and to Ukraine.
Well, definitely. US is very clear that the war needs to end. Whatever it takes, the war needs to end is the very clear message coming in from the White House right now. We also know that Zelensky has announced that there will be a peace talk, a negotiation talk for that matter between Ukrainian delegation and US delegation this very week, starting Monday in Riyadh. Remember, a similar discussion took place between US and Russia in Riyadh itself. Back then, it was J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who led the US delegation. This time around, it could be NSA, given that Ukrainian side is not very pleased with J.D. Vance and have accused J.D. Vance of misconduct in Oval House that led to the a heated exchange of words between the two presidents. Now it remains to be seen what the outcome of that negotiation is. But for now, one thing is very clear, that US wants this war to end as soon as possible, and be it cutting off aid, be it stopping of intelligence sharing, all is in general just a way to exert pressure on both Moscow and Kyiv to ensure that the war ends. And that is something that Donald Trump is looking at, is what his advisors say. It remains to be seen how things unfold, given that for Donald Trump, American interest is paramount. We will have to wait and see why exactly pressure is being exerted on Russia and Ukraine, first on Ukraine and now even on Russia. So it would be interesting to see how things unfold.
Because Donald Trump has also been facing a lot of backlash over his recent phone call with Vladimir Putin that had signaled a potential shift as far as Russia and how US actually perceives it. As Rishabh continues to be with us, we also talk about how Donald Trump has called for Russia and Ukraine to settle the conflict once and for all, warning that if there is failure to do so, it could potentially lead to World War III. He stated that the US will step back if both sides refuse peace talks, emphasizing the need to end the war to prevent further loss of life. So this is another statement that is now coming in from Donald Trump.
We're doing very well with Russia, but right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine, and I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine, and they don't have the cards. They don't have the cards. As you know, we're meeting in Saudi Arabia on sometime next week, early, and we're talking. I find that in terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards. And Ukraine has to get on the ball and get a job done.
Well, Rishabh, what do we make of this statement where President Trump says that dealing with Russia is far more easier than dealing with Ukraine? For we have seen exactly when that open televised spat that happened between the two presidents.
Well, when Donald Trump is talking about Ukraine and Russia, his only end agenda is the last 4-mile agenda is to stop this war at once, and he wants it to be done as soon as possible. A few experts say that Donald Trump has also would have given a deadline to both the leaders, be it Zelensky or Putin, that there will be a ceasefire negotiated within, say, 10 days to 12 days as well. Ukraine is very clear that they will not approve of any ceasefire. They will not appropriate any ceasefire for that matter till all the territory of Ukraine is returned back to Ukraine, be it be it Kharkiv, be it Odessa, be it Donbass, be it Lovas. The way Russians have advanced in that areas, Ukraine say they'll have to go back, which means that Ukraine wants 1/3 of its territory that is right now in Russian, Russian custody or Russian authority. What we are given to understand that Putin, on the other hand, is okay with the ceasefire, given that he wants that it has to be standing on the current situation, wherever whoever is sitting will keep sitting. There is what Moscow is pushing for, and that is the reason that we see different negotiations happening with
Moscow. The US President Donald Trump suggests that it is easier to deal with Moscow than with Ukraine. However, also talks about imposing sanctions and tariffs on Russia if peace deal or negotiations do not take place with Ukraine. Rishabh, thank you very much for the moment. With that, we head into a short break.